Hello, hello. It's me. EUMTX. Yeah. I don't know the exact specifications, but apparently this guy put out a pretty good video, and I've been told I should watch it. And I don't like to watch things right when they come out, because I like to, let the video perforate and percolate through the algorithm naturally. Admittedly, I'm not going to have much of an impact on that. We're not that big around here, but still, it's just good practice. So, it's been long enough that we should be able to watch it without hindering their video performance or anything. So, here we go.
The day I decided to talk about stuff regarding League of Legends, I did not realize I would be diving into legal stuff. But oh well, here we are. In case you missed it, a few days ago, the European
This was 2
Union
weeks
made a
ago,
move
so
on the
about
predatory
2.5 weeks
practices
ago.
in gaming. The funny thing is that they are finally focusing on
Key principles for trustworthy online gaming environment. The CPC network, coordinated by the European Commission, is publishing a set of guidelines today to promote transparency and fairness in the online gaming industry's use of virtual currencies. The key principles outline the minimum requirements for the purchase and use of virtual currencies, including clear and transparent pricing and pre-contractual information, avoiding practices hiding the cost of in-game digital content and services, as well as practices forcing consumers to purchase virtual currency, respect of consumers' right of withdrawal, and respecting consumers' vulnerabilities, in particular when it comes to children. So this is about obfuscation currency, right? I've ranted a few times on stream about that shit, so.
something that has been part of the entire microtransaction system from day one.
Okay.
And that's because the day microtransactions were born, they were led by people who knew how to milk people's wallets. I mean, why
Horse armor is usually attributed as the first microtransaction, but I don't think it technically is. I'm pretty sure there was a Korean game or two that had microtransactions first, but Horse armor is the one that made microtransactions pop off, especially over here in the West. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Wasn't it like Maple Story or something, or like Ragnarok Online or some shit like that? There was some little one, I think, that had microtransactions first, but
else would we replace the name expansion packs with DLCs? And of course here we are specifically gonna talk about the use of premium currencies. Now, what is surprising is that most people don't
Fortnite
realize
made obfuscation
that
currency
premium
huge.
currencies are a really bad thing. And because people don't know about this, it kind of
Once
proves
Fortnite had
why
it,
they
everyone
exist.
else had to have it too.
Simply said, the real reason why premium currencies exist is because people have an idea of how much things should cost in their own native currency, but if I see something available for Robux, I have no idea how much that is. So one purpose of the premium currencies is hiding real value. On top of this, when you buy the premium currencies, you either buy a small bundle that doesn't give you enough currency to buy something, which means you have to buy more, or the bundle gives you way too much. And now the next time you want to buy something, you already have some of the leftover currency,
So you always have some in the bank, which means you're always going to be looking for opportunities to use it so you're not wasting value. Yes, that's the whole problem with these fucking currencies, is that they're a sunk cost fallacy, basically. Which is infuriating. And I think that's part of the problem. And they mentioned in the white, what do you want to call it? The white paper, the synopsis, whatever, that they mentioned right of withdrawal. Meaning, if you have money in a system, you have the right to withdraw that money out of the system if it has not been used. That's one thing you cannot do with obfuscation currencies. You cannot turn them, no matter how much or how little you have, you cannot turn those back into currency, to your money. Which is part of the problem. Because you're putting money in, and then you haven't used it, but you can't take it back out. They've essentially trapped you in the system, which is extremely predatory and extremely anti-consumer. Like, illegally so. It's goddamn near theft. And it's amazing it's been tolerated as long as it has. Really unfortunate practice. Really hate it. But I've ranted about that, I think, a good 7 or 8 times on stream over the last few years, so I won't. I'll refrain myself, but yes, I've been a huge hater of obfuscation currency for basically since they came out. Ugh.
Now you only have to buy the smaller pack to get it, so you buy again. Which is when you may think, sure, these are pretty bad cases, so surely there has to be some
Allowing
kind of
for
a catch,
refunds?
right?
Yeah,
There has to be
exactly. That's
something
good.
positive
Yeah,
to
yeah.
premium currencies. Well, the thing is,
No. No. I've looked. I've spent years trying to come up with a positive for premium currency. The closest I've been able to get is it's something the devs can easily give away as a reward or um, an award for process. That is the closest you can get. And even then, there are ways you can do that without the obfuscation currency. And if it wasn't for all the other stuff the obfuscation currency does, that isn't even the best way. Like creating an entirely new system to give something away would not be the best way to go about it anyway. So that's just how they try and get you to be okay with this system. Oh, yeah, the system really blows and it hurts you in every conceivable way, but occasionally we'll give you like 10. Yeah, we'll give you like $1 worth. Yeah. Just like not frequently enough that you won't need to buy more to get anything, but enough to get you sucked into the system so you're like, oh, well, I've got this value here. Well, oh, hey, here's this flash sale for 8 hours. This first time flash deal. Oh, hey, if I get that, then I'll have enough to get stuff. Oh, wait. Now I still have some left over, and I actually paid for that 150 that I have left over. Well, that feels bad. I mean, I guess I'll wait until I see something else, and then I'll buy some more down the line and use that up. It's like it's Ouroboros. The snake is eating its own tail. It's a terrible system. It's a horrible system. Blah, blah, blah.
nope. The only reason premium currencies
That's the only
exist
positive
is
reason I could
because
come
they
up with.
make more money. There is literally no other use for them. You could argue that premium currencies work for brand building. I mean, look at the famous V-Bucks, or Primo Gems, or the Riot Points.
But you're creating a need for branding where there wasn't one originally. I mean, yeah, you're essentially creating the need for the branding and then using the need that you created for the branding as justification for the branding. That's a pretty weak argument, and it falls flat on its face the second you engage with it. You created this problem, so that shouldn't justify the solution. That the solution, you're basically creating the problem and using the problem as the justification for the problem, which is fucking wild.
So there could be an argument made there. However, that would only be true if the companies also didn't pull off their shenanigans with the bundles. Regardless,
well, even
this
without the
has been the
shenanigans,
case
it's still,
with premium currencies since the
logical
early
loop.
days. And surprisingly, this doesn't mean the infamous horse armor. While that is considered one of the first proper microtransactions, that one was just bought for good old $2.50. No, instead, we are talking about early EA stuff.
Which, when you take into account inflation, that $2.50 back then is like $7,000 now. So very pricey. Very expensive. Fucking inflation.
Does anyone remember BioWare points? Does anyone remember having to buy a premium currency to buy a Mass Effect DLC?
I sure do, and I pissed and moaned about it. While all other games just sold you normal expansion packs for normal money, because you're a normal person. Well, EA may not have been the first one who invented this use of premium currencies, but they surely were one of the first ones to heavily profit from it. They were ahead of the curve, and because it worked so well, these days simply everyone uses it. Well, fast forward 10 years, and after way too many people got too many cases of getting scammed by video games, which technically they are not getting scammed, they are just getting baited into paying more, and after many boycotts that happened from gamers, which means they did not succeed because gamers have no self-control whatsoever, no impulse control to speak of? No, that sounds about right. Even my own friends, I could see the impulse control gamers lack is amazing on like a large general scale. Holy crap. I think a lot of that comes down to people just aren't taught fiscal responsibility when they're young. Like back when I was in school, we actually had classes that taught you not as extensive as maybe you would like, but they did try and teach you fiscal responsibility and how to manage money to about as much a degree as you can teach a fifth grader, that kind of thing, you know? And then my high school economics class delved even further into that. The only unfortunate part there is economics was an optional, not, you didn't have to take it, but if you did take it, they did try and also kind of hammer fiscal responsibility home there as well a bit. But these are things that need to be expanded on. Like, things that need to happen in like lower tiers of school outside of like higher education, but like integrated into high school, middle school, and even all the way down into grade school. Statistics, because that would also help. A lot of this comes down to statistics, particularly things like loot boxes. If you had a better understanding of statistics, you'd be less likely to buy loot boxes, or at least more of them. And other things. Gambling would, that would also help against gambling as well, just in general. And, like, kids need to be taught about credit as well. Like, responsible credit usage, especially in the modern age, where a couple of mistakes on credit early can really, really hit you hard in the mid-run. Like, there's just practical life advice that we're not teaching anymore. We used to, because I had a class in 5th grade. I don't remember what the class was called now, but we had an entire class, an hour every day, dedicated to things like credit. They taught us how to write checks. They taught us, responsible spending. Like, we actually used to have that as a class. And as far as I can tell, most places don't have that anymore. That's just gone. The most practical thing you could teach your kids in a school setting that will actually serve them on a day-to-day basis to the rest of their lives is gone now. In a lot of cases. Maybe not everywhere. Hopefully not everywhere. But in a lot of places. But that would all help with stuff like this.
Were done by gamers. The European Union realized, hey, those are some pretty bad practices. And just like other forms of gambling, lotteries, and addictive practices, premium currencies and microtransactions should be regulated. Otherwise, things will keep getting worse. Which is exactly what's been happening over the last 5 years.
If people had better understanding of statistics, that would cut their sales down significantly.
National authorities take action to protect children from harmful practices in video games. Specifically, this is an action against a game called Star Stable Online, which apparently was really good.
Horse girls! The genesis of the crackdown is horse girls! Oh my god, I never in my wildest dreams would I have figured the abomination that is horse girls would be what like the hammer driving the final nail in the coffin. Never would have guessed. Amazing. Well, a salute to horse girls. You saved us all in the long run.
At sucking money out of parents. However, even though this is focusing on this specific game, this enforcing of action will also affect everyone else. Because if other companies ignore what happened here, well, they might get the same strike later too. Now, in short, the summary that circled the internet...
He makes a good point there, but doesn't really follow up on it a lot, or maybe he does later, I don't know. It's essentially it's like a contagion effect. Like, when it happens to one, now everyone has to be aware of it. It's like quarantine. You now have to quarantine yourself from the liability of this system. Companies don't like liability. Liability is bad, especially for publicly traded companies, where liability hurts shareholders. Shareholders don't like liability. They're going to push you away from that. Now that this has become a liability, shareholders are going to want you to back away from it before you fuck up, because they know you're going to fuck up, because that's what you do. That's what going public is. It's your first fuck up. So, this will have an effect where it will trickle down to anyone under the influence of it. Now, the ideal scenario is that this will spread from there, because at this point, it just becomes more of a nuisance to try and curate two different sets of standards. One for over here, one for here. Now, a lot of companies do that to a degree regarding the Chinese market, because they have to, and it's such a huge market. Will that hold true with this in, say, like, the US? Or will they try and create a third standard? So they have the EU standard, the US standard, and then because while the China standard is a bit more disconnected because it's harder for communication to pass both ways, that's not the case for the US and the EU, and US players are going to start looking at this like, okay, yeah, why is it acceptable we're getting boned then? Like, this will build resentment in the long term and could build up apathy towards MTX systems to the point where people just stop engaging with them. It might take a while to get there, but I think overall this is enough poison in the well that this will have a long-standing, like, knockdown effect. Tend to follow each other? Yeah, also that to a degree. This could also increase the pressure on US lawmakers to do something similar as well. So, I think this is the first stroke, but I think this will be fatal in the long run, as long as it's actually adhered to and the punishments are suitably, firm. For example, there was a recent issue where this was in South Korea, I believe, where was it Nexon and Seesaw? I don't remember which company, but one company was lying about the odds and probabilities on their loot crates, their loot boxes. There were items you could not actually get. They had them disabled, but still said there was a chance to get them. Knowingly, willingly. Like, evidence came out that they knew this was a thing, and they were just milking people for money. Because if nobody ever gets it, that's premium exclusivity. Everyone's going to chase it. And they're never going to get it, and they're going to keep chasing it. They got hit with a fine. It was a pretty good size fine. But that fine only ended up being like, I think it was 10 or 15% of the estimated value they earned off of that practice. That was it. They basically got a slap on the wrist for it, to the point where I'm not even sure they fixed the problem. I don't know if they turned it on or not. Like, if they're only going to get hit for $20 million or whatever, just arbitrary numbers. They made $200 million, they got fined like $24 million, something like that. Who knows? The exact numbers are irrelevant. But if they're just going to get slapped on the wrist, why stop doing it? Like, if they can get away with doing it for a couple more years before the next fine comes in, and the fines, well, say they even double the fine. Well, if they still made $200 million, and you're now only hitting them for $50 million, well, they've made $400 million and only lost $75 million. Why would they stop? Unless people start going to prison, or you start really eating into their bottom line. I think one of the stipulations for them losing the case was they had to do some kind of reimbursement, but it was an in-system reimbursement, so people didn't actually gain any monetary value out of it. It was kind of weak overall, and it probably didn't cost Nexon a significant amount of money. So they're still fucking up. They are up. 5 to 20% of what you made from it is nothing. Exactly. Yeah. So, until fining practices change to catch up to what the realistic values of these things are, it's going to keep happening, unfortunately. So, that's a big question for the European Commission here. What are the punishments going to be? And are they going to be worth a good goddamn? Or will the companies just not care about it and ignore them? You got to hit hard. Otherwise, this is all pointless anyway. I don't know if this will cover what the penalties or whatnot are going to be, so I guess we'll see, but
is honestly a pretty bad summary. Especially if you move around video games and you know what's going on, this one is not really for you. For the most part, it is focusing on the advertising to children in video games, because throughout gaming history, there have been many cases of children bankrupting their parents in video games.
Yes.
However, overall, everything is also aimed at protecting adults. So first, here it mentions that you are not allowed to advertise to children specifically, which also means you can't urge them to quickly buy something.
Just as an aside on that real quickly, there are laws against targeting advertisements towards children and collecting information from children to advertise towards them. Guess what? The fines aren't that big. So guess what happens? Targeted advertising towards children still happens. As far as I'm aware, it still happens in both the EU and the US, despite the fact that it's technically illegal in both. But the punishments just aren't severe enough. and the value is too high. So this is technically, I'm pretty sure this is technically already illegal in both the EU and the US. I know for a fact it is in the US.
For the game, which is where we
COPA. This was, I believe this was part of COPA. COPA, I don't know, COPA.
can mention that this is not preventing from the game saying, hey, if you want the premium skin, you better pay up. It's more along the lines of showing that if you don't buy a boost or something really bad will happen to a character.
No,
Maybe they will
get a
leave,
pimple,
or they will get
sore
hurt,
ear,
or something like that. Yep, there are games who actually urge children to buy something quickly to help the characters. And you can find entire articles about...
One of the reasons they get away with this and why they do it is because a lot of the time, the parents already have their credit card information put in, because a lot of this happens on mobile, and the Play Store, or whatever the hell Apple calls their shop, they already have your information on file. Like, your payment information's already there, so all the kid has to do is click the button, hit the confirmation prompt, and boom, they bought it. So that's why they do it. Because they know it's a direct avenue to money that otherwise would not be spent, period. Because kids are dumb. And most parents don't think about the fact that, hey, wait, my credit card information is all in there for when I buy stuff. Oh, damn. And then a lot of the times the charges, especially when targeting towards like children on their iPads or whatever, the charges are small enough that you can go a while before you notice them. And you do that with like fucking 100,000 kids, that shit adds up.
2018. Next, the games are not allowed to bait people with limited time purchases. Now, as far as I know, this is not talking about something like limited skins that are up during an event or something like that. Those should be fine. This is more focusing on those
$800
sales
yeah,
that
the
happen in some games
earlier,
where you can see something on sale, but it is only up for you for like an hour, and you quickly have to buy it, and no one else can see it. I'm looking at you, Warcraft.
So another big issue with these, I think he just touched on that, is that these offers tend to be customized towards the individual to try and fleece as much money out of an individual consumer as possible. These aren't standardized offers that are offered to everyone. They're all tailor-made to specifically abuse you based on what they think they can fleece out of you, based on your spending habits and whatnot. So these are all typically very dynamically priced, and what you get is also dynamic. Like, one person may spend $5 and get half of what this person over here spent $5 on. Because this person over here is a tougher sell, they're more responsible with their money, you gotta offer them more to get the same sale. So this abuses people who aren't as, tight with their wallet, and it creates an unfair consumer environment. It's predatory, it's anti-consumer again. So, because normally one thing that would help protect against practices like these is everyone being offered the same thing. Like, you go into a retail store, it's not like they quickly swap out the labels depending who's walking in. No, this is a uniquely digital problem that does not exist in other scenarios. To an extent, it does exist with cars as well. Like, when you buy a car, the salesman can adjust up and down. But it's usually a bit less aggressive there because there's an understood value to all this stuff. So it's not like they can offer this person 2 cars for 50 grand, but this person over here, oh, he's a dumbass, so we'll just give him a lemon for 50 grand instead. He's not going to know the difference. Like, there are still limitations in a real-world scenario, which do not exist in such an obfuscated, hidden, so many people. Like, most people aren't going to find out that they're getting fleeced like this. So that's kind of what makes it bad here, whereas it gets you can get away with it in, like, car sales and whatnot, to a degree. It's self-limiting elsewhere, but there's no self-limit on this, unfortunately.
Rumble. The
Variable
problem
pricing,
there
yeah,
is that these
exactly.
sales are specifically up only for the people who are more likely to buy.
Yeah,
but then it
well,
mentions that there shouldn't be purchases hidden behind small purchases. I'm not exactly sure what kind of a game would do something like that.
A lack of clear and transparent information adapting children about buying and using in-game virtual currency, leading consumers to spend more than they... Oh, wait, what is he talking about here?
At a star stable online.
Wait,
assume it is something like, hey, you buy like a small horse, but in order for the small horse to run or something, you have to buy a big stable later. I don't know, I'm making
Okay.
this up.
You know what? I think he's right. It's purchases that cannot be utilized feeding into additional purchases. I think he's right. He's actually right on that. That's probably what they're talking about. Because that's kind of fucked up. And especially if you are not informed of this immediately right out of the gate, his horse example is actually not a bad one. You get the horse. The horse doesn't mention it needs a bigger stable. So you're getting the horse and you're like, oh, this is going to be great. And I can just put it in my set. Uh-oh, you bought a Clydesdale. That Clydesdale ain't going to fit in your little rink-a-dink thing there. Like, that stall's not big enough. That Clydesdale's going to clip its head every time it walks in. That's animal abuse. We're going to have to hit you with that one. So here, we actually have a special barn or stable specifically for Clydesdales. It's got, like, they raised the clearance of the roofing by about a foot on it. So much more animal friendly. So, but you gotta buy it. You can't get it in game either, unfortunately. It's very specialized. So I think he's right on that. That is exactly what they're targeting with that. Would be my understanding of it. Would be my reading of it.
Lastly, it also mentions that if an
Need a hanger to keep it.
influencer
Yeah,
is talking
exactly.
about a video game, they should
Spaceship
also
and a
mention the
hanger is a good one,
monetization. To be fair, this should have been a thing from the very beginning. Back in the day, I've made a Hoyoverse video.
This is already a thing in the US. And the FCC take it very fucking seriously. And while the government isn't really great at finding companies because they just don't seem to understand, value representation, the FCC is very good at finding content creators adequately. So most content creators are fucking paranoid of pissing off the FCC over here in the US. So this is already the case stateside.
Video or two, and yes, I still made jokes about the gacha.
Not only that, but I believe companies also get in trouble as well as the content creators. So when you take an offer now as a streamer, for example, when they send you the information, they, in no uncertain terms, big red fucking letters oftentimes, will say, you must disclose that this is an agreed upon, that you are being compensated for this, this is marketing, you have to disclose this. If you do not, it's whatever happens afterwards. Sometimes you get kicked out of the program, other times they just won't pay you as you breach contract, etc., etc. Any number of punishments. Like, even the companies will regulate this just to avoid FCC attention. FCC, FTC. I can never remember which one this falls under. Either way. So, even the companies are paranoid about this one over here. Which is good. As they should be.
But here's the thing. After reading this, none of this really sounds that bad, right? It's not like any of this is actually gonna affect any of the big video game corporations, right? Well,
it's gonna affect all of them.
That's because this summary is mostly aimed at the European parents, I guess. It is supposed to tell them, hey, we are protecting you and your children. However, should we dive into the other documents that go into more details, we may realize
Prove that they didn't know the company
this
gets hit
also
hard as hell.
affects
Yeah, exactly.
someone like Riot Games. And let me tell you, that other document is a whole another beast. One that might actually improve monetizations in gaming. So here, the network's key principles on in-game virtual currencies is an 8-page long document, which is not that big, which is why, at the very beginning, they mentioned that this is not an exhaustive list of all the bad things companies are doing. So if you start doing something bad now, run. But immediately at the
Seasonal
beginning,
event,
we
that would
have
be
an
a lot-
interesting
yeah, exactly,
line.
Roll.
After talking about what virtual currencies are, they mention this.
So something like a seasonal limitation or something that's going to be limited for an extended period of time, that's less pressure, like less immediate turn your brain off, make the decision right now pressure. Whereas a flash sale ending in 30 minutes, well, fuck, now I don't really, oh my god, I gotta hit the button. If I sit here and think about this too long, I may miss it. This is an amazing deal. Is it an amazing deal? I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But either way, you don't have time to think about it. That's the whole point of a flash sale, is to put in undue amount of stress on the decision-making process and really dig in at that FOMO, that fear of missing out. So, but something that's going to be around for like a week or a month, or whatever. Like now you have time, you can kind of sit, you can weigh your options. You can be like, do I really want this? It goes away in a week, but honestly, would I really actually use it? Like you have time to sit and think about these things, which is why seasonal things or like crossover events are usually not as big of a deal. But a flash sale that's going to end in the next fucking 50. I've seen some pop up in mobile games that are going to end in 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to decide if you want it. That doesn't give you a lot of time to sit there and think about it, you know? Warframe did some skins with currency that wasn't going to come back around, but it was 6 months. Well, yeah. Like, that's completely different as well. That also kind of falls into the like seasonal content, sort of the a lot of games do that. I don't know if it's really a great thing, but it is what it is. And again, it's far less problematic than like you have 30 minutes to decide. So, but yeah, vaulting things, that's what they call it. And vaulting isn't exclusive to just video games. Vaulting has been something that has happened outside of the digital space for decades. Disney even vaults shit. Like vaulting is a long-standing marketing practice. So that one's probably not going anywhere. It's been around too long, it's too established. Nobody really seems to care about vaulting.
The CPC network considers in-game virtual currencies as digital representations of real-world monetary value when they serve no purpose other than, or for which other functions are secondary to providing for a method of payment, the purchase of digital content or services in video games. In other words, this is mainly focusing on games that simply have their own V-Bucks or
Obfuscation
riot
currency,
points.
yes.
In theory, something like gold in World of Warcraft is fine. Because even though you can buy gold with real money, gold isn't exclusively used to buy things you would have normally just paid real money for.
And not only that, it's easier to create a direct correlation for the value of the gold. Because another thing obfuscation currency tends to do is create layers. Whereas the gold doesn't really do that because it's an in-game earnable currency and shit like that. But what I mean by layers is like, what's a good example? What was that? What was that game? That top-down Lost Ark. Lost Ark came out. They had what? 3 different premium currencies? Or currencies that could be used in a premium manner? Which created layers, which made it harder and harder to understand the value as the value was diffused and displaced. And it's like, okay, well, this is worth this much, but this is worth that much. And how much was that again? How many of those do I need for this? Whereas this has a limit to how many layers you can place upon it. And again, on top of that, it's also not generally exclusive because you can just go fucking power grind in game and get 400,000 gold in no time at all. So it's still kind of shitty practice, and the WoW token is still generally overall a negative for the game. A huge negative, I would argue. But it's not as predatory. And again, you have an exact value representation. You know 400,000 gold is worth exactly $20. So it's more clear as to what the value of the currency is. So it's not obfuscating nearly as much.
There, gold is part of gameplay. However, later you will see that even this might have to do some things. Because at any point, if you pay real money for currencies, there is a funny thing every video game will have to do. And yes, this also relates to stuff like Primo Gems. Because even though Primo Gems in Genshin can be earned for free, the moment you pay for them with real money, stuff will be applied. The more interesting thing for us is that, yes, in some cases, Riot is screwed. And you will see that it's all...
As they should be. And I think Riot knows they're kind of fucked because they're constantly throwing new monetization at the wall to see if it sticks. And then if it doesn't, they get rid of it. They're constantly trying new things. And I think they're going back to something... They're getting rid of loot boxes because... they gave you way too many ways of acquiring them or something, I think it was. So too many people were getting too many skins for free. So obviously we can't have that. That's cutting into our bottom line. There's way too many free skins flying around with this system. We were way too generous, so we're getting rid of it. Instead of tweaking application and acquisition, they're getting rid of it. Why? Because at the end of the day, they've got people hooked in their ecosystem. They don't need to give you anything anymore. You're hooked. You're in. You're not going anywhere. You've already got way too much value sunk into this game. You're not going to up and quit just because they stopped giving you free stuff. So, they're just going to get rid of the free stuff. So the one potential upside to this obfuscation currency, the fact that they can occasionally give you free stuff, utilizing it more easily. The second they think they've got everyone hooked, they can just yoink that away. The one possible upside can easily just be gone. Just out of the fucking blue, just gone.
In benefit of us, the players. Mainly if you hate something like the Ancient Sparks, you might have a laugh. So next, the document dives into unfair commercial practices,
I will say, I like the fact that they're giving, like, actual actionable examples of what they mean. This is smart, this is good. And this makes this much more understandable and shows its practical application. I like this. This is good. I like this.
Cognitive biases. In other words, the games bait you into paying. And here, according to the first principle, whenever a game has premium currencies, they are allowed to have it. So no, riot points are not going away. But when you are spending it, you also have to show the players the real money value.
Which is good.
This is cool, because if you go to the skins found in League, besides the 1350 RP price...
So like, look at this. What the fuck does any of this mean, value-wise? I don't know what this is. I've used riot points, and I still don't know how much this is worth. Like, so the way they're going to do it now, then, I guess, is alongside here, they're still going to show this. You're still going to see this. But you're also going to see, like, does anyone actually know how much 1,820 riot points is? He just showed a picture of it, like, 3 minutes ago, and I don't remember. I think 3,600 riot points was something like 70 or 80 bucks, maybe. So this is like 20 bucks. 15 to 20 bucks somewhere in here, I think. So they're actually going to have to show you the 15 and the 20. That way you know exactly what it is. They can't hide the value. The obfuscation portion of obfuscation currency is gone. Now it's just currency. And at that point, is there still any value in the system? Yes, because you can't withdraw from the system. So that's the value. However, I believe he mentioned, or the white paper at the beginning of this mentioned right of withdrawal. So if there's right of withdrawal and they have to convert this back as cash in a refund if you don't use the points, then suddenly, now, not only is there no value to this whatsoever because it doesn't accomplish anything predatory that they would want, but now there's also transaction fees tied to it, which means now it could cost them money. So now, what's the point of keeping it around? It's now a financial liability depending on how much people want to withdraw from the system. So this might actually be a death stroke to obfuscation currency. They may just entirely get rid of this little number, this little symbol here, and just slap the $15 price tag on it. Just flat out, because that's cheaper than having to make multiple transactions.
I will also have to show you that this is $12.
You can only buy 1,200
to anyone
for
with
$5?
self-control when it comes to
So
buying
it's like
stuff,
$7
this
for
won't
the
do
1,800.
much.
Fair
But
enough.
you would be surprised how much people are willing to pay when they don't know how much they are really paying. Next, the document mentions that this price should be shown even when you are converting one currency into another one. Specifically, we could mention something like buying Mythic Essence with riot points, both of which are technically premium currencies. But they will still have to show you, theoretically, how much one Mythic Essence is now. And lastly, the prices shown have to be the base price points. If there are bundles that give you like 30% extra currency, those don't count. We're talking about
Oh. So, what that means is this is the value. Each RP is worth whatever that breaks down into for this 5. So, this one is 1240 for 10, but that's not 1240 for 10. That's 10 for 1150. This is a bonus. So, this doesn't account into the value whatsoever. Which means when they sell you a shop in the skin, that just for the sake of ease of explanation, they're selling you a skin for 1240. Maybe it's on sale or whatever. It's 1240. They can't show the value of that at $10 because that includes 90 bonus points, which is not a part of this value. Which means they can't show you 1240 and then $10 because that's not the true value of the RP. The value would be you're getting 1150, so the value would be whatever it converts to. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's getting too late. I've been streaming too long. My brain can't do quick maths anymore.
the raw value. And yes, the document also mentions that
So that's
earning these
smart.
currencies through gameplay doesn't count. Meaning you still
like
have to
that.
show the full price regardless of what's really happening with the currency. So yes, even the glorious Primo gems are getting screwed. Which also includes the situations when
As
you're
they
buying
should.
gold in something like WoW. Anyway, next, the second principle dives into multiple premium currencies, which might impact Riot too. Because first, it mentions that games should avoid offering for purchase and mixing
More
different
consumer-friendly.
in-game
Yeah, exactly.
virtual currencies in one
is good.
video game for purchasing in-game
Well,
digital
not for
content
the
or
businesses.
services. This means that if a game has multiple kinds of premium currencies, they have to merge them all into one. In theory, this means that Ancient Sparks are gone.
In theory, this means Lost Ark is fucked. This is how it should be anyway. Oh god. We really hit the fucking dark ages when the multiple currencies landed. Oh. Trying to think, what was the first game I remember seeing triple currencies in? I know Lost Ark was a big one, but that was a big one, not necessarily the first one. And I don't think it was the first one, because I'm pretty sure I've seen it before then. I want to say it was one of the... Was it Black Desert? It might have been Black Desert. Don't they have multiple currencies? And that game's been out for quite a while now. It could have been Black Desert. Either way, I'm pretty sure it's a Korean game. Might have been Black Desert.
On. Mythic Essence
Some of
might
them have
be
like
in
10
danger,
plus.
and
God.
TFT's currencies are getting screwed too. These should all fall under the premium currencies category together with Riot points.
As they
so
should
in
be.
the future, it is possible that you will not be able to buy Ancient Sparks for Riot points, and instead you just spend your Riot points with the real money value as you roll on the gacha machine.
Yeah,
After which there is
baby.
principle number 3, which might be the biggest one. This might actually
Really?
change the pricing.
'Cause
Because it mentions
the other
that
ones fucked the
games
system up
should
pretty good.
avoid offering in-game virtual currencies only in bundles, mismatching the value of purchasable in-game digital content and services. And denying customers the possibility to choose the specific amount of in-game virtual currency to be purchased. In other words, you are not allowed to sell bundles that don't match the price of in-game items. Which means, you know how in League you go into the store and you have a look at those 1350 RP skins?
And none of them line
so
up
then you
with
decide to buy
anything.
some RP and you realize,
Yeah.
oh no, $10 don't give me enough and $20 give me way too much. Ah, what a shame. Well now, Riot will just have to sell you the skin for $12. And that's it. Thank God.
Yeah.
This was the most used
To their credit, there are a few games with obfuscation currencies that already do this. Guild Wars 2 is a good example. Guild Wars 2, you can buy it in bundles if you want, and you do get, I think you do get your bonus gems if you do that. But You can also opt to just buy the exact quantity of gems you need, if I remember correctly. I believe that is the case. I don't really buy gems with money. I usually use in-game gold, but I do believe you have the option of buying how much you want specifically. I think somebody could fact check me on that. I could be wrong, but I do believe Guild Wars 2 already more or less does this. I don't know if anyone else does it, but
predatory practice by far. And if this is enforced, the players will greatly benefit from this.
Hugely.
Anyway,
Like, it's
Principle
night
4
and
is
day.
all about information. It's just telling you that you're supposed to tell people what you're buying, what it does, what are the features.
As they
and
should.
surely there aren't any companies that would be like hiding that kind of information, right?
Yeah, no,
Then
certainly
Principle
not all
5
of
is
them.
all about withdrawal. Funnily enough, this means that you now have the classic 14 days for a refund, but it also mentions that the game can just tell you, hey, if you buy this, there will be no refunds, and that's it. Principle 6 is all about not...
So, the currency isn't necessarily dead then, because they can still trap you in the system. If they can just loophole it with a all sales are final, or if it's only like for 2 weeks, 2 weeks might be enough to hurt the system enough that they may pull on that. But again, if they can just go in like all sales are final, no refunds, then obfuscation currency isn't going to go anywhere, because you can still utilize it to trap somebody in the system. You can still maintain that sunk cost fallacy. So that's unfortunate. That's a bit of a white glove light slap there. I'd rather see that go away, and just, if you have money in the system, you can pull that money out of the system at any given time. A lot of these obfuscation currencies damn near act like banks at this point. And I can sure as hell withdraw my money from the bank whenever I want. So I think this is a little weak. This is unfortunate. Would have liked to just see the death blow come in. But maybe it'll grow from there. Who knows? Maybe this is a stepping stone on that, and that will... Or maybe the other things are potent enough that this won't matter, and obfuscation currency will still die anyway. Fingers crossed, hopefully. Oh, well, what the hell? I just jumped way down. Jeez.
Using weird words which might scare people.
200 leftover
For example,
gems,
you can't
you
tell
refund
people
what
that,
they
hey,
would
if
do. Yeah,
you buy
exactly,
this
something like
item,
that.
the EU laws don't apply, because that's not how law works. What's interesting is that as part of this, companies are also not allowed to modify the value of the currencies, which means they can't legally take away your riot points if you get banned. But at the same time, modifying is also giving you RP for free, so maybe they can't give you RP anymore for sending them pictures. So maybe drawings for RP are gone. And lastly, Principle 7 is about protect.
There are going to be losses, yeah. Like he just gave an example. Another example would be them giving you points for free through, like, Riot specifically, as an example, used to give you capsules through Prime, Amazon Prime Gaming, where you would get, I think it was like 1,000 Riot points, and they gave one capsule away a month, and they did that for like 8 or 9 months or something. They don't do that anymore anyway, so like I said, as frequently as you might get free stuff, the faucet has a tendency to turn off when they feel like they've got you trapped finally, and they don't need to anymore. So some sacrifices will be made, like you won't get any more through Prime, if you ever did anyway. The drawings, yeah, there's, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a small price to pay for what is otherwise going to be a significantly better system that will probably, in a lot of cases, end up saving you in the long run anyway. Food for thought.
Vulnerable customers, meaning that games shouldn't be designed with the idea of exploiting players for money.
Yeah, no, they
this
shouldn't.
could actually change the gaming industry
Ubisoft.
if this worked. Also, when designing monetization, you are not allowed to target specific demographic. This is mostly a gray area because no one can prove that, but I think it's mostly aiming at not advertising for children.
Yeah.
Games should also not hide real money purchases behind just normal gameplay purchases. I guess there are games where a game will offer you something in a shop for like gold or something, but then you click it and you buy it for real money. I don't know if it happens. There is a whole separate...
That would fall under... God, what's the term for it? There's actually a term. I can't think of the actual terminology, but it's like shadow tactics almost. Fuck, why can't I think of the name? A couple of companies got in trouble for it recently. Namely Diablo 4. Diablo 4 got in trouble for it. It's kind of like the idea of where you go into, hey, let's look at the battle pass. Oh, well, I don't really want this battle pass. Do I want to? So, but when you load to the new page to where it shows you the battle pass, asks if you want to buy it or not, they start the mouse over the buy button. That way, there's a small but real chance, and I believe some streamers even did it, so there's examples of this being a real thing, accidentally clicking the confirm button because the mouse started over it and I don't know, their finger twitched or something, who knows. And then they lost, Dark patterns. Yes, dark patterns. That's it. Yeah, this would fall under a dark pattern, and it does happen. It is out there. And the shadier the mobile game you're playing, the more likely you are to see it. You get really down into the bottom of the barrel, the desperate ones, and that crap happens all the time. Am I like just... Has that not been on this whole time? Huh. That must have come unplugged. I just now noticed my backlight isn't on. Anyway. Yeah, so that happens all the time. Dark patterns. That's it. Thank you, Zanoli.
Point, just to make sure that
Mouse
you do not advertise to children, damn it. Games should also have a functional parent control if it is a game for kids. And if it is on a console that has something like this, it should use the native system. For example, Switch has its own parent control. And lastly, they should avoid preying on vulnerable customers by making them pay excessive amounts of money. Now this one might be the most vague line there is. It's basically a backdoor for the situations where some companies are doing something really bad, but right now we are not sure what that bad thing might be. Because in theory, gacha games should fall under excessive amounts of money. But the thing is that gacha games have a theoretical cap on how much you want to spend on a game. Because sure, it will cost you like $5,000 to cap off a character in Genshin, but in theory, you don't pay more than that because you already have them maxed out. There are some other games, such as Lost Ark, that don't have this. There you pay to upgrade items which only have a chance of upgrading, so theoretically you can just keep paying more and more. Though I think they later implemented some kind of a cap on how much players can actually spend in the game per.
Black Desert Online has this to a very aggressive degree because the odds of getting up to a, what is it called, Tetra? The odds of maxing out the item are so abysmally low, and it destroys the item, which means you frequently have to start from scratch. You could, so BDO, you could theoretically just never stop spending and still not get what you're trying to get, depending on a little thing called luck and statistical probability. So I guess that's kind of what they're covering for, the situations like that, where the system is designed to keep you paying no matter what.
And yes, in theory, Genshin also has something like that, where you can just keep paying for rolling on like artifacts and stuff, so I think no one is safe. But that is kinda it.
Nor
Overall,
should they be
this
safe.
is a pretty good move from the EU, although it might also be a bit vague. The most important thing here is the bundles. Everything else is mostly a gray area on purpose. It is mostly aimed at the games that are really focusing on bankrupting people on purpose. And so, after this was released, and after Star Stable Online was given 1 month to remove their predatory practices, will anything change? Well, nope. I am pretty sure nothing will happen until one big corporation gets hit. Because
Yeah.
in theory, there is enough gray area where everyone will just say, hey, I'm not part of this problem. And so I bet everyone will just sit quietly until someone gets hit. And when that happens, then we might get to see some kind of a change. It may start with EA and their FIFA shenanigans.
Realistically, the place this is going to start is going to be Genshin. They're going to be the first ones hit because they're massive. That's where it's going to start. That's the first domino. FIFA, it's behind the scenes enough, it's quiet enough, it could go a little while unnoticed. Genshin is massive. It's everywhere. And it's probably going to be the first one to get hit. Chacha games? Yeah. So realistically, that's where you should keep your eyes open. That's where it's going to happen.
Or it may start with Riot Games. But the moment the
That's
first
a good point.
company
Riot's
falls,
pretty big too. It could be
everyone will
Riot.
follow. And so
But-
finally, 10 years later, we might get back to just buying good old horse armor for $2.50.
No. Inflation, $7,000. That should be a 7 with a bunch of zeros after it. Honestly, in 10 years, it could be like 70,000. Honestly, we could be like that one country in Africa where they hand out $1 trillion bills like they're $1 bills. Like, you may need to put like 4 or 5 zeros on the end of that puppy at the rate things are going. Okay. That was it. Alright, what? 7:49 p.m. Perfect. We're out of here, baby. Anyway, I thought that was an important watch. It's good to know, and hopefully things work out. Again, nothing. He's right. Nothing's going to happen until one of the big boys gets slapped around a bit. Likely Genshin, possibly Riot. Those are the two most likely candidates because of how big they are. How long will it take? Could be a while. The only upside is that both of them, especially Genshin, seem to target somewhat younger audiences. So that might help speed things along. I don't know exactly how many kids play Genshin, but it does seem like it's more geared towards younger audiences. Riot could probably argue that they're not, and that might help them. So I'm thinking Genshin's the likely first impact site here. So keep an eye there. The day it happens to them is the day all the rest of the dominoes fall behind them. So fingers crossed. We'll see.